What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ask Not Me Anything podcast. And today I sat down with my friend Carlos and we had a heavy, candid conversation about how he overcame substance abuse to become an art director at Media Arts Lab. And he's worked on campaigns for Apple and makes incredible art. And we've known each other since we were kids. We grew up across the street from each other. It's a great conversation and I can't wait for you to hear it. So let's jump right in. First question is coming in from Vivian Carolinar. How did he become an art director and what else did he do with this career?
Interesting question. The short answer is by accident. My career started out in a completely different way. I actually started as an industrial designer.
That's what you studied at school, right? That's what you studied at school, right?
Yeah, I studied industrial design at SCAD. I graduated with that degree and I started my career out as an industrial designer for probably like the first 4 to 5 years. And then I went freelance and kind of was like willing to do whatever I could, just for money, and just I wanted to see what my skills bought me. I guess like outside just like industrial design and engineering. And then, through transitively, I ended up working for individuals and musicians and stuff, and like stuff related to the internet, and then somehow ended up as an art director.
Cool. Yeah, and I checked a couple of the questions and we're definitely going to get into that, some of that other stuff. So okay. The next question is coming in from K_am I rickety? What is the opposite of pillow? What's the opposite of a pillow? I'm not even sure how to answer that. Wood. Cool. Any further explanation?
No.
Okay. It's self-explanatory. Opposite of a pillow is wood. On to the next question from Liz Levitch. Who or what has been your biggest source of inspiration?
That's a lot. So I think that I like kind of outgrew the like hero mentality pretty quickly, just from like being around like a lot of different like niche cultural like groups, and you just understanding that like no one's perfect and everyone's human. Like it ended up being like this thing where the people that inspire me the most are like really the people closest to me. One man in particular who actually like contributed to helping me get sober is probably like the most inspirational person that like led me to taking ownership of my life, and that I think permeates like every area of my life, including like my career and like what I seek to achieve through art. And then additionally, like my father passed away like 8 years ago now, and it's so interesting because like growing up, and you were there, there was like a large sense of like I want to be the opposite of my father. Absolutely. And then at some point you like grow up and like something shifts, and now you're like, I just want to be exactly like my father. But his work ethic and kind of like how he took care of his people, and like how he like placed a priority on certain things, and like his and our lives like really, really affect me to this day. And I'd say that like it drives a lot of my decision making and kind of like my moral compass up until this point. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I still remember 8 years ago when your father passed away. I remember you sharing that photo of him in your driveway when it was snowing. And can you expand on that a little bit more, that moment?
Yeah. So for everyone that doesn't know, my father passed away suddenly in the driveway, plowing snow in Pennsylvania. That moment was like probably the most influential moment of my life. Like, and I think we'll get into like more of the like the substance abuse stuff, but like at that point I was like not chill. Like that was not a chill point in my life.
So eight years ago,
regard. And like it was pretty sudden. Like I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, and my older brother actually like drove up to my house without telling me, and like kind of cornered me in the back room and broke the news to me. But that picture in that moment, like there's that spot where like he actually like passed away. It's just really interesting. But yeah, that moment and that trauma, because like I'm not one to like use the word trauma very lightly, but that's what it was. It was like traumatic for me. Kind of like drove me to like do really messed up things to myself, and drove me to actually like get better. And it continues to drive me to this day, as far as like curating a relationship with a person who is no longer here is like a lot of effort. I'd say like grief in general is like constantly kind of like moving. It's a moving force, and like having a hold on it is like a very fleeting effort that you continuously need to practice.
Oh, yeah. And the next question is coming in from 1jo.photo. How you need to work as an art director for a brand? Like, you start photography or videography or what? And by the way, these questions are a little all over the place. We're going to talk a lot about sobriety and a lot about your career and a lot about...
I'm a little all over the place too, so I can...
Yeah.
Versatile.
Perfect.
It doesn't start with anything like photo or film, in my opinion. It starts with an idea. I tell a lot of people, like, my job is to come up with ideas. And like, that's, I think, where the actual, like, the bones of what I do is.
You're an ideas man.
The meat. So if you have the bones and then the meat surrounding it, the bone is like the idea, and an idea can take form in so many different ways. Like, it doesn't have to be photo or film. It doesn't have to be like short form or long form. It doesn't have to be like art even. It's just like a lot of my ideas are even just like strategic thoughts, but that's kind of where it starts. And then the meat for me is like execution. So whether I'm executing that in photo or film, or, you know, a presentation, or, you know, a social media post, like that's where that comes into play. But I think like whether something lives or dies, or like, you know, has some substance, is all like based in like, how did you come up with it and why are you doing it? The who, what, and why.
Okay. Can you think of a better analogy for people who want to work as an art director that are also happen to be vegetarian? As opposed to like not meat and bones. Is there like, can we do like...
Yeah. So like, Beyond Meat and and Beyond Bones. I don't know.
Yeah.
That, yeah. I guess I would say that
Beyond Meat and a tomato.
The core of the earth and the mantle.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I could see the similarity. And the next question is similar to this previous question. It's from jakec.jpg. Advice for a 20-something-year-old hoping to work in the artistic side of advertising.
Be a good person, and everything you do should, how do I say this? It's almost like every job is about the next job. So like, you know, someone like me, I have like a pretty diverse like background. I'm not like beholden to working in like one industry at all, and I'm not necessarily like trapped, you know, I'd say, into like doing one thing. But the way I kind of like filter things and opportunities that come my way is like, will this add value to getting me to where I want to be next? I'll never forget, when I first moved to LA 9 years ago, there was a job offer that came through, and it was like $55,000 a year, which was like more money than I could ever conceive at that point, you know? And it was to use my industrial design skills to like create these like 3D billboards that like pop out of the billboard, and like, you know, for action movies and stuff like that. And I remember like
that's so LA.
And you know, I got a lot of like advice from my brother at that point. And that's something that my brother passed down to me, was like, every job is about the next job. Like, if you took this job, like, where would it lead you? Probably somewhere that doesn't mean anything, or somewhere that I didn't like really, really like. So I ended up not taking that job, and I ended up taking another internship like right out of college, all the way in Boston, where I didn't get paid like nearly as much.
But it was a way better opportunity for you.
That was way better off. That decision kind of like set the course for like my entire career. And it also established like a really, really strong precedent within myself to like think before I act. Cause like, which I definitely failed at later in life and had to like refine. But yeah, just being like strategic about like where you want to go is like, is probably like my biggest piece of advice. There's obviously a lot of advice I could give, but that is the one thing
Okay, cool.
that I always remind myself.
Well, I think JakeC.jpg will be satisfied with that answer. I hope so. I thought it was a good answer.
I hope so too.
Next question's from Bex, BEXSS. Bex, what were some key signs that your addiction was taking over your life?
Okay, so how do I answer that? Because there's like a denial period, which is like pretty prevalent.
Yeah,
like
were there are there if I'm is there 5 steps to this process? Like denial is the first step, or
there's something like that. I don't know what the actual steps are. There's like stages of grief and there's stages of, you know, addiction and stuff like that. But I mean, when I finally like understood it, I'll put it this way. Like I went to rehab my first time in 2014. And I stayed there for quite some time. And I left that rehab and I like tried to re-enter society. And at that point, you know, I was like, I can try and do this again. Like I can manage this. Like, let me just go and try and smoke weed and drink like a normal person. Like I really want to like, I want to have these like fun moments that I had in my early like college days and stuff. And that was like really the only instance that I ever tried to manage my addiction. As soon as I went back to rehab again after that, I kind of knew like I wasn't like a normal like person where that like could like handle just like casual drinking and stuff. Some key signs were like my life was falling apart. I had no money, you know, like my place was constantly dirty. I'm placing more of an importance on kind of trivial things and people rather than like having a fridge full of food so I don't go hungry, you know. And you get caught up in a lot of like drama. Like drama is like, I'm allergic to it now because a key characteristic of like that lifestyle is just like drama always happening around you.
Right. Interesting. Next question's from Eon_McGuire15. Was there a defining factor or moment that caused you to really work towards your sobriety?
Yeah, there was. And it's really interesting. For me, at least. I don't know if everyone will find this interesting. So my final like attempt at sobriety was a little bit untraditional. I went to an institution that pretty much like saved my life. It was a lot of work. Like a lot of like introspective examination, a lot of like accepting help from like peers who were also addicts, and a lot of like accepting help from people who had long-term sobriety, which is like pretty much allergic. Like it's pretty much like I'm allergic to taking advice from anyone, you know, for the most part. But there was a moment where this guy, Todd, he'll remain anonymous, but I had very long hair and my like fashion sense at that point was like pretty whack. And I remember he would just like yell at me. Actually, everyone yelled at me one night for hours telling me to cut my hair. And that I was like constantly depressed and I was dragging my feet everywhere I went. And
this was in rehab. This was in rehab.
I remember after that like little, you know, group therapy session or whatever you want to call it, I went into the bathroom to like catch a beat and I looked in the mirror and I actually had this like kind of like vision and moment. And at this point, I hadn't seen my family for like quite some time, at least a year, maybe 2 or 3 at that point.
Wow.
And I was finally going to see them. And I get to go to dinner with them for the first time in a while. And I just had this like kind of flash vision of me walking down the street with them in downtown Culver City, which is like a really nice area of LA. And I imagined my dad was there too. And I just had this like moment where I imagined myself in my mom's shoes and my brother's shoes and my father's shoes. And like giving the way I looked at myself in the mirror, I imagined that if I was any one of my family members, I would literally be embarrassed to walk next to me. Wow. Because of the way I looked, because of the way I carried myself, because of the clothes that I was wearing, because of like my sense of integrity, and like both because of like how I might talk to like someone on the street, how much I think of myself, you know. And I had like this really, really strong feeling of like secondhand embarrassment. And that night I shaved my head, and everything has been different since that moment, because I was willing to take a look at myself in a light that was more accurate. The reality was I was like not a good person. I was not cool to be around. I was embarrassing to be around, and I was overall unpleasant. And that was the first moment that I was willing to recognize that.
Wow. And was that the moment you became sober?
No, I had been sober for quite some time already, probably like a month or two at that point, maybe 3. So sobriety is not the absence of, and in my opinion, I don't want to like, I'm sure people have their own opinions. But for me, sobriety is not like the absence of like taking drugs or drinking alcohol.
Interesting.
For me, sobriety is like a personality shift. A personality shift and an emphasis on like truth, I think. That's the best way I could put it. And I had like the beginnings of a personality shift at that moment. And then the following months after that was like me and a lot of other people helping me curating that personality shift, so I could sustain myself and like re-enter society as someone who like didn't rely on people or wasn't helpless.
Right. Can I just say, this is just really interesting to hear, because, you know, we've known each other since we were babies, and
well, how was it? We have gone through periods of like not talking for years and then talking all the time. Like, was there any observation from your end where like you kind of noticed things?
Yeah, I mean, from my end, we just lived very different lives, and we were living across the country, as well as like had totally different friend groups. Yeah, I mean, we keep in touch sometimes, but very rarely. I just remember like you always like changed your number. So like whenever I would text you, it would be like a new number, and which you must have changed your number like 10 times. Anyways.
Yeah, I just changed it recently again.
Yeah, I just never really knew what exactly you were going through, to be honest, because we never really talked about it. I just knew you were in rehab at some points, and then out of rehab, and then I hear our moms are close, so I hear you're doing better, and then, you know, we chat, but we never really go into this stuff. So yeah, and I never know if it's like polite to really like talk about it, especially since
it's an interesting thing how like almost like the people you're closest with that know you the best, you almost want to hide stuff from them the most, because I don't care about like meeting someone on the street. I'll tell them like I'll show them all the skeletons in my closet, because like am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Because I don't give a fuck what they think about me. But someone like you, who I grew up with and like has like family proximity and stuff, like your opinion carries weight within my like soul, you know? So of course I was going to be distant.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely we'll always be, it's funny how you explain that, because we'll always be like brothers almost, and yet we don't know like we won't talk about this stuff. So like I'm glad we're even just doing this podcast right now and opening it up.
100%. I'm stoked. And we've been talking, just so everyone knows, we've been talking like a lot lately. So I'm super glad to like have you more integrated into like my, I guess, top 20 text message recipients.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Whenever I'm in LA before COVID, we always chill, and vice versa. Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad we're tight. Going into the next question is from Sizzle Reel Gang. When we all do stupid things when we're kids, what's the dumbest thing you and Jerm got into as kids? Also, I gotta say, but while you think about this answer, I gotta say, Carlos is the one that gave me the nickname Jerm the Worm, also Jerm, because he called me Jerm the Worm. And I'm thinking of this now. You're the guy who started that. So
I remember that.
So a lot of people called me Worm. A lot of people called me Jerm. Some people call me Jerm the Worm. My screen name ended up being Jerm the Worm. That was my original Instagram name, was Jerm the Worm 5. Yeah. So
That's cool.
thanks for coining me my nickname.
I don't know the stupidest thing we've done together. You know what? I'm gonna actually implicate you in this because I don't want to take full responsibility.
Okay.
But the stupidest thing we might have done together was getting those little prickly things stuck in your sister's hair. I will never, ever forget that moment.
My dad got so mad at you. My dad was so pissed.
Terrified.
Yeah. Because my dad yelled at you, right?
What? It was your dad for sure. It was everyone. It was all of our.
But you were terrified because my dad yelled at you.
Just everything, like, because I thought like it was permanent. Like,
yeah.
When I was young, I was like, I don't think like she's gonna be able to get these prickly things out of her hair. What have I done? Yeah,
I mean, looking back, that's so funny. The answer that comes to mind for me, what is the stupidest? It's not necessarily stupid. It's just like my first memory that's like somewhat stupid. Not really. But I remember when I was like 14 or 15 or something, I came to your driveway late at night on a school night, and you just came out and you brought a bong.
Oh yeah.
And that was the first time I smoked weed. Was I took a huge bong rip, and then after that bong rip, you went to your freezer, which was in your garage, which was outside there, and you brought out rum raisin ice cream. So, and then I considered that getting drunk. So I thought I was smoking and drinking, and I was like, I must have been like 13 or 14. And like, I thought that I had some bites of that ice cream, and I legit thought I was drunk from rum raisin ice cream. So
yeah, that checks out. I had a large bong collection. I definitely like to show all the kids in the neighborhood. So
yeah,
checks out. Sorry, I got you blazed.
No, not at all. It needed to happen at some point, so I'm glad it was with you. The next question is coming in from CS Snow Run. What NBA player are you?
Am I?
Yeah. If you were an NBA, I knew you were going to answer that.
I mean, if I'm being honest, who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Allen Iverson. If I'm being honest, if I like make an analogy of like, okay, me on a creative team, who am I?
Right. Brian Scalabrine.
Like Eric Snow. I'm the point guard. That's how I see myself, like integral team.
Give yourself some more credit
type stuff. I don't really need to shine that much or hit like the long three or anything. I actually know who asked that question. That's Colin. He's a coworker of mine. He hits the long three.
Okay, cool. Often. So he would be Ray Allen?
He would be like Durant.
Okay. Wow, that's a high praise right there.
Everyone knows him at the court. It's just like everyone wants him on the team.
Okay, cool. So, well, shout out to Colin. I knew you were gonna answer that because me, you, Francis, the three kids that grew up in our neighborhood, we were all hardcore Allen Iverson fans. This was in like late 90s, early 2000s. I remember coming over to your house and playing Sega Dreamcast and playing with the Sixers, Eric Snow, Aaron McKee, Dikembe Mutombo, Allen Iverson,
Tyrone Hill. Don't forget Tyrone Hill. Hill. That was an epic time. And yeah, I think Allen Iverson pretty much like influenced like so much. Like, look at me, dude. I have so many tattoos, and it's all because of like I saw Allen Iverson.
No way.
Tattoos, and I was like,
that's so
cool.
That's interesting. Yeah. We have some tattoo questions, so we'll get into that. But I didn't know that about your tattoos. Your tattoos are heavily influenced from Allen Iverson. I mean, he influenced
he's the first one who like got tattoos and then
did dreadlocks and tattoos in the NBA.
Like, yeah. Didn't give a fuck about what anyone thought. And I was
the answer.
Well, that's what I want to be like. And then you hear like all different crazy stories. Like he buys a new outfit in every city he goes to. And I was like, I want to be rich. And
he had so much influence, and now look at the NBA today. Everyone's tatted. It's like rare if you're not tatted and you're an NBA player.
Yeah.
So
I'd say that in general.
He really did that.
Yeah.
He's a very influential player. Also, us being short guys, you got to love the short guy in the NBA. You got to root for him. Anyways, we could do a whole podcast on Allen Iverson and how incredible he is, but we'll save that for the after pod.
Okay.
The next question is from Ana_IV. Did you go through any healing process / treatments to overcome substance abuse? I think we touched upon it a little bit, but so you went to rehab a couple times?
I went to rehab 14 times. That's a lot of times.
That's a lot of times, bro.
I failed 13 times.
Yeah.
I went treatment, like therapy was integral to in my whole process, whether I like sustained it or not. Like the interesting thing to know about like substance abuse and trying to like overcome it, it's not a battle won overnight. It's more of like a journey into like understanding yourself and understanding how you fit into the world, and like harnessing like a sense of humility that like connects to society, and like being a brother amongst brothers, or being a worker amongst workers, and like being a good like family member. It's like it is so much more than like I'm going to go to the doctor or a psychologist or psychiatrist and like get a fix. But I did receive treatment from a psychiatrist and a therapist, like all throughout, like even into my like late sobriety. But for me, like those were all extras that like helped. I went to a sober living facility that was like, and I had been to a lot, but the one I went to at the very end was like integral to my recovery, because their approach was so different. And that place is called Ethos Recovery in Culver City.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think I saw someone ask a question about ethos specifically, but I thought they were referring to Ethereum, and I was a little confused.
Oh, that's really funny.
Questions coming in from Mayula99. How can I be a good friend to someone who struggles with addiction? This is something I'm really curious about too.
The short answer is like, that's a tough question, because like there's so many, like if someone's like really bad, then like you need to like not co-sign them and their behavior. Like you need to like, I mean, I'm pretty strict on this whole topic of like recovery and addiction. So sorry if like my opinions are pretty strong, but like I'm in the camp of like cut them off. Cause that's what worked for me. And I'm not saying that that's what works for everyone, but I can only speak from my own experience. Like shit didn't get serious until like people started cutting me off. I don't know if you ever met my like best friend from high school, Kirsten, but I remember there was like one morning where I was again like in a really bad spot, and she told me, she was just like, dude, if you don't get your shit together, like I'm no longer going to be friends with you. And it were like moments like that when you hear it from people that like are close to you or that you care about, where you really get the clear picture. And it doesn't matter if like your intentions were like good and you didn't mean to, and I'm sorry, I'm sick and all that stuff. It's like when the rubber meets the road, like you're fucked up and like you need to stop. And if you're not going to stop, like I'm not going to be around to like watch you do this, because you can't stop anyone from like ruining their own life. You know, I can't give you the will to like go through a really hard battle, you know, but I'm also not going to sit here while you don't try or don't put any effort into bettering like yourself in your life.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street in a lot of ways. And so when she said that to you, Kristen, what's her last name again?
Kirsten. Dwyer.
That's right. I've never met her, but I've heard you say her name so many times. You went to prom with her, right?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
We did.
I thought you went to prom as friends.
Yeah. I won't get into that.
Okay. Yeah.
Prom.
Yeah. Anyway, so when she said that, it struck you, and that was like another pivotal moment in your journey, would you say?
Yeah, it was just like a moment that kind of like always stuck with me, just the way she said it. Like, there are like a couple different moments throughout my sobriety where like I vividly remember, or sobriety and addiction, where I vividly remember like what it felt like, what the time of day was, like what the vibe was and stuff. And like that one particular moment was like really gnarly.
Okay, so
when she said that to me.
So these close friends where you had these instances, for example, this one, are you still friends with all these people today, or did some, because now that you've been sober for 4.5 years now, have you been able to like become friends with people you were once really close to, or is that just?
Yeah, I mean, Kirsten and I have stayed close the entire time of me struggling and getting better. I talk to her probably like once a week, but like for the most part, by and large, like I'm friends with like pretty much everyone, minus a lot of people that are still like out there really hitting hitting the stuff hard and not really doing well. Because I can't, like, I didn't get sober to keep that type of energy in my life.
Right.
And like the reality is, like, a lot of my close friends are dead. So we, I can't be close friends with them. They're not here anymore. So yeah, that's just a reality of addiction.
Yeah, that's something I never really talked to you about too much either. I was aware, just like surface level, that you had a couple of close friends pass away, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if like I have maladaptive coping mechanisms at this point, just from like being institutionalized, because like you go through enough like treatment, and it's just like common vernacular, like, oh, so and so is dead, and you're like, cool,
Right.
I knew that already.
You kind of become numb to it.
Or like, yeah, it was like, it was bound to happen sometime, like the last time something like that really happened, I was like, thank God for her family, and so she doesn't have to keep suffering. But yeah, a lot of people died all the time, and it's really messed up. But luckily, like, I have a community of like people who are pretty much just as desperate as I was, that all made it out. And like, we kind of try and honor a lot of our friends by just like living our best life and trying to like, hold it down, not kind of fold under like the pressures of everyday life and the human condition.
Yeah. The next question is from Dionton.Lucker. How did you meet Eric Whitney, aka Ghostmane? So anyone who's not familiar, Carlos works very closely with this artist, this big artist that goes by Ghostmane, aka Eric Whitney, who Carlos has actually hired me to do some shoots with him in the past too, which has been really fun to work together. It's like a full circle moment when we've gotten to work together on some projects as adults, when, we grew up together as kids and went our own separate ways. And then, so how did you meet Eric Whitney?
So one of my best friends, who actually is in recovery as well, what has a really interesting story about how he like went from like merch guy to becoming like DJ and guitarist for Ghost's band. And there was a point where like Ghost needed a website, and I was like freelance at this point. I don't know what was going on at that moment, and I was like, I can build a website, dude. And we started kind of talking and became close after that. But that's pretty much how I met him. He came over to my house, and I was like, this is how I think your website should look like.
Yeah, and then it just went from there. Now, do you guys still work together pretty closely? I mean, I guess with music stuff, tours being canceled and stuff, you're not working as much.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with him closely on his like last album release. But it hasn't happened so much as of late, for a couple different reasons, COVID being one of them. Just not a lot of happening. And
okay, can I mention
I've expanded to working with like more musicians since I met Eric and stuff, and like, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, my favorite Ghostmane story, well, that I know of that you did it, the one time, I think this is when I first met him, when you hired me as a photographer to photograph him at Lollapalooza. And you were the person who, what's the term? You just like came up with the idea for what he should do during his set.
Yeah, I like kind of designed the performance.
You designed the performance. So there was like some crazy things that happened during that set. One of which was you hired a tattoo artist during this live performance to give someone a face tattoo while Ghostmane was performing on stage. And it was on main stage at Lollapalooza. Someone was on stage while he was performing, getting a face tattoo of Ghostmane. Can you expand on this a little bit? Because this idea is just
so the idea
bizarre.
The idea was a lot crazier to begin with, but we were met with like 3 different insurance policies that said otherwise.
How did Lollapalooza let this fly?
Because like we wanted vehicles, we wanted stuff to happen in like the crowd and stuff like that. But we did what we could, and we finally got approval to like get a tattoo artist to come out and an executioner to like hold a participant down to a table.
That's right. They were strapped down, right?
Chain him up, and then tattoo his face on stage.
Wild.
So it showed on like the Megatron and like the YouTube video and stuff like that.
So crazy. And then in the stands there were these like 25-foot people on stilts that were dressed as, can you remind me?
What's the term?
Yeah.
They have like,
I want to say it's like pandemic creatures, because those creatures with the long legs.
I can't believe I'm spacing on this the term, but
all right. Well, I'll have to link the
plague doctor.
Okay, plague doctor. Right.
So yeah, we had plague doctors walking on stilts, and we had like costumes designed by a production agency that was like really killed it with the costuming and stuff, and they were walking through like the crowd and stuff.
That was definitely one of the craziest shows I've ever seen. Definitely the craziest show I've ever seen during daylight, because this was all during daylight. If anyone wants to watch this, you could probably just look up YouTube Ghostmane performance Lollapalooza. What song was it, or particular with the?
It was the entire show.
Yeah, it was the entire show. Right. So yeah, definitely worth checking out, because that was wild. Next question is coming in from Rebecca.Flores Cuevas. Carlos, who is your favorite TV character? And maybe ask him what his one favorite creative campaign for any product was.
Least
favorite
like creative campaign that I've done, or just like any?
It could be either one, bro. But what's your least favorite TV character? What's the
least favorite? I don't want to skip this question, but I do want to change it.
Okay. I'll let you change it. Yeah, you do get 2 skips in the show, but we'll one of these skips,
try not to skip.
This skip could be a change. We'll count it as a skip.
Westworld is a terrible show.
Hot take.
I really hate it. like it literally, it's one of like the most like crazy loathing points for me, like talking to anyone. So I would say like any character in Westworld is my least favorite character, because they killed it with the imagery, and like the photography and film and all the marketing for it is like so beautiful, but it's just, in my opinion, like it lacks a lot of substance in the story, including character development and character background. Like after season 1, we get to a point where just like anything's possible, and it's like they've created this like atmosphere where like nothing makes sense, so they literally don't have to like actually tie anything to a linear narrative, and it really upsets me.
Yeah, I could never.
That's my answer to that.
I could never get into that show either. So the worst season 2 to any show ever, though, True Detective. Compared to season 1, season 1 was incredible, and then season 2 is just a flop, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right. It's a flop. Flop is the best way to put it.
Yeah, floppity flop like a fish.
That's the risk you run with these shows that like change narrative after every season, you know?
Yeah. And then the second part of Rebecca's question is maybe ask him is one of his favorite campaigns for any. So what was your favorite campaign for any product? I'd say, something lately. I know you've been working on some crazy stuff, specifically with Media Arts Lab. I don't know how with NDAs and everything, how much you could go in depth on it, but feel free to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know either. If I'm being honest, but
play it safe. I don't want to.
I think that it's really hard for me to say. Let me skip. I'll skip that, or I'm gonna come back to
okay,
it.
We could come
time to think about.
We could come back to it. Let it. Yeah.
Campaign.
Let it marinate in the back of your brain while we answer these other questions. And this next question is from NJ.Vargas. Do you draw inspiration from the trials and tribulations relating to being an ex-addict?
No. Not in my current like work. It has no like tie.
Yeah.
While I do think that like there's a way to platform people that come from like less fortunate situations, that I don't think anyone has really cracked. Like beyond that, like I don't think that there's like a really clear tie, but I will say this: everything I learned about like moving through life came from my process of getting sober, because like sobriety is so much about like having a moral compass and like having an MO rooted in principality, like the basics: honesty, integrity, service, and stuff like that, and then this is the biggest one for me, is observation. So I was pretty like vocal back in the day. Like I had a lot of opinions, and I thought that like my amateur career as an industrial designer and like freelance artist like gave me the agency to like tell you my opinions, when in reality no one gives a shit about my opinions, truly, unless they're asked for. um so being able to learn how to observe, and like speak when I'll have the most impact, really 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 went a long way. um then you pair that with just being like a well-rounded human, who is like decent, or tries to be decent, like wakes up every day and tries to be more decent than the last day. Like those things carry me through my career. Truly, like how I navigate like a team, how I navigate like working on set, how I navigate working on a production is all rooted in like the skills and principles that I learned from getting sober. So I think that's the best way to answer that.
Another pivot question from Cottage Life 510. What type of kicks do you love and why?
Kicks like shoes?
Yeah. Unless kicks mean something else that I don't know of.
Cereal?
Oh right, dude. I love kicks. That's an underrated cereal for sure.
Like there's like kick drums. Like there's a lot of different types of kick drums. Actually.
I'm assuming this person means kicks like shoes, but you could answer all three though.
I like subtle shoes. But like then again, my style's like constantly evolving. Right now, like my favorite shoes are just like the classic Rick Owens canvas shoes. I have 2 pairs because they're pretty iconic and they're just like, they don't really scream really loudly. And they were just like really, really well made. I do have a lot of shoes though. Like I'm constantly buying shoes and then getting rid of them just because I like to like keep my starting lineup like constantly fresh. So I look for a couple different things. Like if I'm looking at Air Maxes, I want to have that because that's an iconic silhouette and I want to be able to pair that with like certain outfits. But like as far as like my everyday driver, it's like right now it's like Rick Owens.
Nice. Yeah, to circle back to Allen Iverson, when I was reading that question, the first shoe that came to mind is when you would rock the Iversons. The Answers, were they called? The Answers?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I want to get a new pair because they like had that re-release.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I have the style to rock like
I don't know.
Basketball shoes.
Yeah, I don't know if they age well, those kind of shoes. Like they're definitely still cool, but like to wear them with like just
I would need like a bespoke outfit to wear with them.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Next question is also from Liz Levitch. Do you think you're perceived on let me rephrase that. Do you think how you're perceived online aligns with who you are IRL?
Probably not. I'm working on it, if I'm being honest. Like, I mean, and
because your Instagram page,
like, my values have changed a lot in the last 2 years.
Okay.
Accelerated by the climate of the pandemic. I was forced to be at home by myself. I live by myself. And you kind of like focus in on like things that are important to you, and you like get closer to like things that bring you peace, things that spark joy, things that, I don't know, really matter.
So what are some of these things that you discovered over the last year that by living with yourself you really realized?
I love the internet, but I hate being on it. That's one thing. Like my persona on the internet is a little bit like goth and kind of like remnants from like when I was like more integrated in the music industry and stuff like that. But I love being on the internet because like creativity happens on the internet, sometimes with brands, sometimes without brands. The internet is in this amorphous thing that's like ever changing and like will never stop being exciting. So I love it, but I really love being an observer because like I work a lot in the internet field. And it's like, it's really hard to be like a front runner or like a factor on the internet while still remaining like having that 1,000-foot view to actually like understand it and be analytical about what's taking place on the internet. And for me, like I like understanding it way more than participating. Like granted, like it's cool to have like followers. It's cool to get attention. It's cool to like have like DMs come through and being like, I love your work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to some extent, like I want to maintain some of that, but like what's important to me is like my family and like my new baby nephew, and like having a consistent lifestyle and interior design and like really cool furniture.
Oh yeah, that's quite the very.
Oops, I dropped my slide.
Oh, that's all good. That's a nice spectrum of different things, from materialistic to actually like real, family.
I am gonna try and start like, so like during the pandemic, my posting went down pretty hard. There's a lot of things happening in the world.
Life's busy.
I just chose to kind of like reel it back, but moving forward, like this next year, I have like a couple projects that I'm getting ready to like shoot and like kind of try and craft.
Cool. Just personal projects?
Establish a new kind of presence.
Nice. Yeah. When I think of your Instagram, I think of one of the most recent photos you posted, which is like a USB cord going through your eye and out your ear or something. Or no, I think it's just through your eye.
Going through my nose and out my eye.
That's what it is. Yeah. Cool stuff like that. Yeah. You guys got to check out Carlos's Instagram, Sliz. Also, before we go on to the next question, we're speaking of like internet culture and everything internet, etc. I'm very curious your thoughts on this, which is what just happened this past week. Lil Nas X dropping his single Montero and his music video and the shoes as well, and how this was all carefully planned and made the song go #1 and made it all go very viral. Just real quick before we go on to the next question, what's your thoughts in like 30 seconds on that whole situation that I'm assuming most people listening to this are familiar with?
Yeah, I'd like to just commend Lil Nas X for just taking a risk that like I'm sure was met with a lot of different voices telling him otherwise. I follow Lil Nas X on everything, so I kind of like just have the perspective that I do, but it seems like this was in the works for a really long time since he dropped that clip of the song where he's like driving in the car. And I wish I knew like how the creative like came about, but I commend him for taking like a huge risk and then staying on top of it as like the drama unfolded, because
he's quick with it.
Better than him. He's so good at trolling. It's absolute entertainment.
Agreed.
As far as the shoes go, like did Mischief really not like vet this with their legal team?
No, I think they knew that was going to happen. The Nike lawsuit, they must have expected that. Come on, the drop of
why wouldn't you just get it cleared or like do something to avoid that?
Well, I think that's part of the story. More people want to talk about it than if there's a lawsuit. I don't know. Yeah. Who actually knows? Anyways, I brought it up because I could knowing you, I could totally see you like working with an artist and like building this plan to make this song go viral and coming out with the idea for these shoes. Like this is literally an idea I could see you coming up with 100%.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I mean,
I didn't, but yeah, like Mischief does really good on like creating these bespoke niche kind of stunts that like expand beyond what their purpose is. So
yeah,
definitely cool that they did that. And yeah. I think like Lil Nas X is just such a cool story, like on from all angles, like born from TikTok and just like he is like the new American dream, as cringe and like maybe ass backwards as that might be for like a younger generation. I just love him.
I love him too. He's one of my favorite artists right now. Not only do I love his music, but I love how witty he is on Twitter and how good he is at marketing his stuff. It's genius, the stuff that he does. Question from Andrew_Sawane. Best piece of advice he's ever been given?
This came from so I'm really bad at math, just to let you know. I don't know how I got an industrial design degree, but this came from my senior year math teacher on my last day of high school. It was my very last class. And she told us the secret to happiness is to set goals and reach them. And that's the best piece of advice I've ever been given.
Simple but effective.
Yeah.
And what's a goal that you have? Ooh, I don't know if you guys hear motorcycle gang is just driving by in the background. Okay, usually it's more motorcycles. That was only a couple. So what is one piece of advice what is one part of that you think you set a goal for yourself and it later became true? Or is it just a general piece of advice?
Probably to travel a decent amount, like as an adult, which, like I obviously want to do more of, like everyone does, but I've definitely done a little bit of that. And my goals are constantly changing. I will say that much.
That's cool.
Like I'm constantly like reaching goals and then getting new ones. And yeah, I don't know, like not to be cringy or whatever, but like working on Apple has literally always been a dream of mine. Like as when you start off in industrial design, and back in the day when I was entering like the interest of it, which was like 2004, 2003 was when I really started my like 2003. I was like 13 was when I started like developing art skills and like drawing a lot and like learning about what industrial design is. That was like prime time for like emerging tech.
Yeah. So
when the iPhone dropped, it was like a shining example of industrial design at work. And like that was imprinted in my brain for a long time. So I always wanted to like be involved with Apple. So that's like a major goal that I did.
And now you're here today working for Apple. And so speaking of that, if we could rewind to that last question that you said you wanted to get back to, I could think of a couple campaigns you worked on with them just recently. Like for example, the TikTok one. Like, can we talk about that?
Yeah, which one? So there's a couple TikTok ones that we went out that I helped kind of develop.
Which is the idea.
And then there was AirPods Jump.
Yeah, both which were such a cool idea. So did you? I'll just let you speak because I don't know. I know Apple's pretty private with what they put out.
Yeah, totally. I'll just say that being able to participate on TikTok is like super awesome. And like how TikTok is set up for people to like jump in and make their own interpretations of things through like challenges and the use of hashtags has just been great. So it was amazing to kind of like bring that to the table for Apple and kind of being able to capitalize on like, last summer or last like when the iPhone came out, it was like very exciting. Like we got a brand new iPhone with like a new design. So being able to participate in like that effort and then also bring a table that like could live on bring an idea that to the table that could live on TikTok for that was just like amazing.
Yeah.
We got to work with Zach King.
Right. I was about to say you worked with some of the biggest creators on TikTok. Like Zach King was probably who you're most excited about. What a legend.
Yeah, I love it. It was awesome. It was that was like a major bucket list moment for me and I'd say my entire team.
What an incredible artist. I think he has the video on TikTok with the most likes ever or most views ever. I might be wrong, but
I think that's Bella Porch though.
Oh, is it Bella Porch now?
He might have the most likes, not the most views.
Okay, Bella Porch has the most views.
I think so with her like face.
Yeah. It's so striking. It's like, what is it about? Yeah, just you can't really put it into words. It's just you just have to keep watching it.
I actually don't know how anyone does that. Are they like using the tracking feature?
Yeah.
I haven't figured it out.
It's a filter. It's a filter for sure. Not in After Effects. You could do it right in TikTok.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Like working with Zach King was just awesome. Working with Kevin was amazing, and like obviously working with all the creators is just amazing. It's so refreshing to be able to like direct, these artists that I like look up to and already know about and like, found organically just from them being popping and being able to like collaborate with them is like, it's awesome.
Totally.
I'm sure, because like, I'm sure you have the experience of like looking up to someone and then them being like, hey, let's collab.
Yeah. Question from Sam Ashton. Carlos, do you miss me?
Did he say, do I miss him?
He said, Carlos, do you miss me? Question mark.
I do miss you, Sam. But luckily, I get to see your semi-shitty takes on the Sixers on Twitter. I'm just kidding. Your takes are, for the most part, good. I just don't agree with anything you say about Danny Green.
Yeah, he doesn't like Danny Green, I don't think.
What?
Yeah, I don't think he likes Danny Green, right?
I don't.
You don't?
But the last time I saw him tweet, he said, I'm glad Danny Green's on the team or something like that.
Yeah, because he almost got traded at the trade deadline.
I'm pretty sure I didn't like that tweet, Sam.
Wait, time out. You don't like Danny Green?
No.
So what is it about Danny Green? I'm guessing not him as a person, but his basketball skills.
I don't know. It's definitely an irrational dislike.
Okay, well,
like statistically he does okay, and like statistically like he sinks shots that are like clutch, but like for some reason, like whenever I like pay attention to a game and it's like he has the ball, he misses, and it makes me so upset.
So the thing about Danny Green is I was really happy that he stayed on the team, because at the trade deadline recently he almost got traded. But yeah. I don't know if you know this, but he's won the last 2 years he's won a championship with 2 different teams.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So he won last year with the Lakers and the year before with the Raptors. And now he's on the Sixers this year. And there's never been a player that has won 3 championships with 3 different teams. Maybe it's in a row or 3 different teams crazy. At all. So he's definitely, I mean, that's why I want to be, he's the good luck charm right now. He could bring the Sixers the championship this year. We want that chip.
You put it that
so
way.
He's the magic.
I'm trying to remain
secret
like
sauce.
Neutral with Danny Green until he earns my respect as if I deserve it. But yeah, Sam, I do miss you. I think I kind of keep tabs on you via Twitter and Jeremy, and I do miss you. You should come out to LA.
Yeah. So Sam, anyone listening, me, Carlos, and Francis grew up in this one part of the neighborhood, and then down the street a little bit, Sam grew up. Sam was my first friend ever, and then you were shortly after that.
Yeah.
The next question's coming in from Paloma.mv. How many tattoos you have?
More than I can count. I legitimately don't know, because there's also like,
yeah, you're covered, bro.
Together, so like, where do you draw the line of one tattoo versus another?
I mean, what's your most recent one? Have you been getting tatted over? I guess not. Who's been getting not that many tattoos over COVID?
Plus, like, as I get older, they hurt more.
Really?
But my most recent one is like probably this one.
Okay, so I'm gonna describe it for can you describe it for anyone who's not watching the video version and listening to the podcast?
Yeah, so it's like LA script, and it's paired with like some floral arrangement to kind of make it like look good and fit on my forearm. Mm-hmm. But I have a lot of like script all over my body. At one point in my life, I was like really into it, and I think it's still pretty unique. And I go primarily to this guy named Dean, who's here in LA, and his mentor, Vince, who actually passed away semi-recently, RIP. But they kind of done the heavy lifting on like my entire body.
Wow. Even the face tat on the side of your face.
Let's not call it a face tat.
Oh, it's not okay. Not a head tat. Head tat. I love that one.
Dean did the head tat.
It also looks so good wearing a beanie, how it just kind of peeks out a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool. It's versatile because like when my hair does grow in, you actually can't see it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And the next question is also a tattoo question from Aesthetics, my friend Seth. Favorite or Seth?
We chat.
Oh.
We chat on Instagram.
Oh, I love it.
He's moving to LA next week.
He's moving to LA?
You didn't hear from me, but you can go yell at him. But
wow,
yeah,
he didn't tell me? Wow, I'm going to hit him up after this podcast. I can't believe I'm hearing it live on a podcast. One of my good friends moving to LA. Damn. Just another one of my friends moving to LA. Why do all of my good friends move to LA? This is just like friend number 10 probably in the last year.
70.
I don't want to get into this conversation. We'll just start talking about it forever. The LA versus New York classic conversation that everyone talks about. New York's better. Come on, guys. All right. So his question is favorite or most meaningful tattoo ?
My most meaningful tattoo is on my ribs. And the story goes like this. This is the only tattoo that has a story. because like, and like all these people, they ask me like, what does it mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like a lot of my tattoos, most of my tattoos don't mean anything. They look cool. They say some stuff, but you know, like I don't think too hard on it. But my most meaningful tattoo does mean something. So my father died on December 10th, 2013. And my dad was like a pretty healthy guy. He's like vegetarian for a very long time and like worked out even till his like his his dying day. Um, and when he passed away, we went down to like his regular like route. We kind of like walked his route through the house just to kind of see, I don't know, like we're walking around everywhere, just kind of like it was like a very somber vibe. And we went up to the treadmill, which he used every morning at like 5 a.m. He used to
Wow.
like wake up and work out. And on the treadmill, like for his warm up, he would like walk and then he would read. And he had like a pen there where he would like underline all this stuff and like add little notes and stuff. And so we went there, we went to the treadmill and we found this book. And it was like a book on Buddhism. And we found the page he was reading, and it had the words "nothing lasts," and right next to it was a little dash that said 12/10, the day he died. So he basically like wrote that down, a little note to like revisit that, like 4 hours before he actually passed away. So I actually have the words "nothing lasts" tattooed across my ribs.
Yeah, I just got the chills just hearing that. It's serendipitous. Wow. Yeah, when you found that out, what did you like, what was your reaction when you put that all together?
I don't even know when we found that out, but it was sometime that day. A lot of that experience is like pretty, it's a blur, like I remember like the important parts, like William Penn Highway was like backed up with traffic with everyone trying to get to the like funeral and the wake, which was like meant a lot to me and my family and stuff like that. But like the vibe in the house was like, what do we do? Like we weren't expecting this. We had no time for preparation. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
None of us were ready to like, I mean, my mom, moved to this country with my dad when she was like very, very young. Like, I don't know the exact amount of time, but I want to say like circa 40 years together.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of a sudden you are now a single woman,
With all the kids, out of the house, you and your brothers out of that, with you and your brothers out of your house, being adults, living somewhere,
we were all
living, all living across the country. She's alone in this house.
Yeah, and it was just like, what do we do? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah,
like, our people are flying in from like all over the world, and like, it ended up being like pretty. Obviously, it's like an important moment for my family, but like we got a lot closer after that, and I think that our extended family like got a lot closer with us too.
That's really nice. Speaking of tattoos, I want to talk, no one asked this question, but I'm thinking of it now. I want to talk about your first tattoo, because from what I remember, you were like the first kid I knew or anyone knew to get a tattoo. Like no one had tattoos like in middle school or high school. It was the beginning of high school or something. We also went to different schools, even though we lived right next to each other. Yeah. But yeah, I'm curious about this tattoo. It's like a skull in your chest, right?
No, I mean, that was my second tattoo.
Oh, that was your second tattoo. What was your first tattoo?
Yeah. My first tattoo was like an adaptation of the Filipino flag, which is on my like right shoulder. And I got that really, really early. Like while I was still in high school, and I was like, I thought I was the shit.
Yeah.
Like,
how old are you?
I was like the only person in the entire school. Like I just turned 18.
Okay.
Yeah. Something like that. I was the only person in the entire school with a tattoo, and like
right, because you went to private school.
Being like, this is it. I want to be like the center of attention for being like the bad kid. Like, and I think Allen Iverson had a very similar, like he had some kind of sun, on his shoulder. or like
Yep.
circular form, and I thought I was like him, basically. But my second tattoo was a large skull in the very center of my chest.
Which was shortly after, right?
Shortly after, like as soon as I got to college.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't wait.
Question from Feder Code Enunzio. What's the best advice you can give for overcoming substance addiction?
It's probably like an unpopular opinion, but like do AA, like Alcoholics Anonymous, do the 12 steps. Because ultimately, like I had help from like these institutions and sober livings, but like everything that is taught and like, you know, facilitated there all roots back in the 12-step program. And that's ultimately what saved my life. 12-step program is like a system to like understand the problem internally and externally, deal with the problem internally, deal with the problem externally, and then you learn how to like sustain sobriety. There is a spiritual element to it that a lot of people get hung up on, but like for me, I would be doing a disservice if I told anyone that the best way to get sober was any other way, because AA has worked for millions of people and continues to work for millions of people, and me included.
Yeah. Cool. Going on to the next question. It's from Stacy_XOXO. How did you make it through the pandemic in terms of your substance abuse history? Like what, I guess, was it harder because of the pandemic, living alone, like doing, or was it easier, or was it about the same?
It was about the same. Like there's something they teach in like the program where it's like, they call it like the obsession. And at some point in like my first year of getting sober, like you lose the obsession to drink and use. So that was gone, you know, already. And yeah, I mean, I'm very blessed. Like, so like my pandemic has been like extremely easy. Like I'm employed, I live by myself, so I don't have to deal with anyone else's bullshit. I like where I lived. I actually moved from that place, but I liked where I lived. And like, luckily, like there are video games now. So, you know, there's not a shortage of things to engage with. So yeah, it was not hard at all. And I mean, obviously the pandemic is hard. I spent the first 4 months completely by myself.
Yeah.
Because I was like very, very scared. But I've had a pretty easy like pandemic experience, and like at no point really did I like consider like relapsing or anything like that. I think I place a lot of emphasis on like staying connected to my community and like constantly sanity checking myself and with my friends and my other sober community members. So I've remained pretty fulfilled and like spiritually fit.
Awesome.
And that's what it takes. It's maintenance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of being scared those first 4 months, it was today, right? That you actually, right before this podcast, you got vaccinated.
I got vaccinated today, right before this podcast.
Wow. Yeah. Originally, I know we were texting and I was like, are you free on Tuesday to do this? And you're like, oh, wait, can we do another day? Because I'm getting vaccinated that day. But I guess you just got it bumped earlier in the day.
Yeah. I had an appointment scheduled for like a certain time that conflicted with this.
Yeah.
And then I realized that like, it's just easier to get a vaccine. So I like went on CVS.com and I just scheduled another appointment.
Incredible. How do you feel after getting the shot? Like what's your, are you feeling normal right now, or do you feel sick or tired at all, or?
Nope. No, I feel completely normal.
Okay. How about mentally?
Somewhat relieved that I can like start the process of being vaccinated, because like I really want to hug my mom who's older, so I haven't been. I really want to like hold my baby nephew, who's a baby, so I haven't been. We've been like pretty safe like on the family side of it. So I'm looking forward to like just like embracing my family.
I'm excited for you guys, and I'm also so excited that your mom is out living in LA now, because you and your brothers and family all live in LA now, and your mom was in Pennsylvania where we're from, and she did the move out to LA, and now everyone's like together. Well, it's as together as you can be in COVID, but
yeah.
So
in the same city, I it would have been really difficult if my mom was still on the East Coast while we were all out here.
Absolutely. Unless you had a private jet, it would be easier. But until then.
Yeah, but then you'd have to pay for gas. And
Yeah, it's bad for the environment. Yeah.
It's expensive.
Question from J Margoni. What resources?
Pretty sure I went to high school with him.
Oh yeah, cool. Well.
Oh no, I don't. I do know who he is.
J Margoni. Okay, cool. What resources do you recommend for learning traditional art?
Traditional art?
Yeah. Do you have a traditional art background?
Yeah, I do have a traditional art background. I was classically trained by this brilliant artist named Myron Barnstone, who taught me out of a cigar factory every day after school how to draw and how to paint. He actually has like a set of lessons that you can actually buy. He also passed away. He was pretty old. Rest in peace. But I would recommend that, and I would recommend YouTube. YouTube is just the ultimate resource of our generation, and you can learn anything.
You really can.
Yeah. Also, like, there's services like Udemy and like other like platforms that like teach master classes in like a very concise way where you can pause and play and like revisit.
Yeah.
So I really recommend like those services because they've helped me a lot too.
Yeah, whether it's YouTube, Masterclass, Skillshare, there's so many resources out there that don't have to be college, but could be. That's a whole nother conversation as well, whether to go.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in the final stretch now. I think we got 5 questions left. And this next question is coming in hot from Joshua A. Granette. Do you feel like the divisive nature of cryptocurrency / NFTs is warranted? Why or why not?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Do you feel like the divisive nature of cryptocurrency and NFTs is warranted? Why or why not?
I need like a definition check on divisive in this context. What does that mean?
Yeah, I guess how there's like the best way I could describe it right now is how there's like 2 strong opinions on either side.
Oh, okay.
Is how I'd think of it.
So basically, that is the question asking me what I think.
So let me
crypto and why it's so 2-sided.
Yeah, let me rephrase it for you in my words.
Okay.
Is the nature of cryptocurrency and NFTs, and I was about to say how divisive. Yeah, you get the question.
I get the question. I think there's a lot going on with cryptocurrency, and I think there's a lot going on with NFTs in particular. And I think you can boil it down to like some simple human truths is that like people don't like to be excluded. And I think that happens in all markets, like think of any business, say they're doing good. They're maintaining. Someone else comes up and opens shop and does something slightly different and makes more money than them. The first guy is going to get upset no matter what, I think like we're not at the point where like the mass majority of like people in society are involved with cryptocurrency, let alone NFTs. Could it go there? 100%, 100% could. It's probably raising every day, like awareness and like involvement in it. But yeah, I think like markets tend to exclude people and people tend to get offended when they're excluded.
Yeah.
And like the other thing with like NFTs is like, no one's cracked the code on like what makes a good NFT. I don't know if we're at the point yet where like true value in an NFT has been like soundly established. Literally like some of the most amazing artists I know that I respect deeply put out an NFT and make minimal money, while there's other people that I don't respect. And that's just my opinion, they make art as art, and they kill it. And I don't think that's anyone's fault. I think there's some fault to be had for other things in the NFT industry, but I don't think we've established like what makes an NFT good or more valuable than another NFT. At this point, we're still in the beginning, and maybe that'll like rattle out, and we'll find out what that is, but we're not there yet. But I would say, to answer that question, is like, yeah, I think like people don't like they don't like
Absolutely.
FOMO.
Totally. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of FOMO. I mean, I feel some FOMO that I'm not super involved right now.
I always feel FOMO about like constantly, consistently throughout every day.
Yeah.
About
I'm so
NFTs.
happy for all these people that are crushing it and making like generational wealth right now. It's pretty cool to see.
That's the thing I think is, I disagree with you on there, because I don't think anyone's making generational wealth. Generational wealth at this point in society is like $50 million.
Fair. I was going, yeah. I mean, they're making. I know some people that are making a lot of money. It's changing. It's changing their lives.
I'm super happy.
It's changing their lives.
But like when you look at someone like people,
right,
and like
that's generational wealth.
Like, I am not the arbiter of information on crypto or NFTs. I'm just simply an artist that works in art. But that's a test case that like is not the norm, for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't relate a lot of situations to that for sure. It's definitely yeah. Do we want to talk about anything more about NFTs before going on to the next question? You've been dipping your toes in it a little bit, right?
I mean, yeah, not to like out myself, but like I've been involved with NFTs since last year. Whether it be research or kind of like putting my toes out or my fingers out there and trying to get involved. But like the place that I found the most peace in is like not being involved. At least in the like major discussions. Like a lot of people want to make NFTs and a lot of people want to like shoot their shot. I'm willing to help people shoot their shot, but I'm not willing to put out an NFT under my own name.
Right.
Why? Because there's too much controversy right now. Too many people I respect have not established their own like opinions about it. I think there is like a tendency for people to like really get upset. And whether they're justified in getting upset or not, I don't want to upset anyone.
Yeah.
And that might be on me, but I also think it's just good foresight. Like if you're on Twitter, there's people who are qualified in creative industries saying that this is bad. Now their reasons might be bullshit, but as someone who works at a high level in the creative industry, I don't want to upset anyone. I always want to like leave opportunities and doors open for myself going down the road. I don't want to, I think it's dicey right now for me to like put something out there and then have, I don't know, my boss in like 10 years find out that I did it and then be like, yeah, we don't want to give you a job because 10 years ago you put out an NFT of like some butt cheeks and sold it for like $50,000.
I mean, I'd hire you if you did that. That sounds kind of cool. Like,
well, yeah. And then there's the other side of that, I don't know, dude. I'm like strategic, like bordering on manipulative. So like I got my W and I will continue to get my W while maintaining safety and protection.
I respect that.
For my career and, just trajectory in general.
Yeah, I respect that. Question from Lucy Mauer. What do you like about working at MAL, aka Media Arts Lab?
I love working at MAL because I work with like the best creative, strategic, and like, I don't know, like human minds I've ever encountered. Like working in an agency setting is not as simple as like, I'm creative, I am a strategy person, I am like good at managing relationships or anything like that. Like it is an entire dance and choreography and like, I really enjoy it. Like I really enjoy doing that dance. Obviously there's the execution side of stuff where like you have to deliver. For me, it's like I have to creatively deliver and creatively execute, which of course is like my core passion. Like I love making beautiful things. I love doing that. But like I love working at Media Arts Lab because I enjoy the people I work with and they're the best at what they do. So I learn so much from them. And I love like navigating the waters of like solving problems within that setting.
Nice. Another question from Aesthetics, aka our friend who's moving to LA. How does Carlos know Kreayshawn?
That's so funny. I just saw her this morning. She actually gave me this webcam.
Oh, really? She was
Yeah.
she was your friend who gave you the webcam. Nice.
Um, I met Kreayshawn bowling.
Oh,
So one of like me and my friend's favorite things to do is go bowling. We usually like to go in like Koreatown because it's like fun. We can be just like outrageous and stuff, and like they serve alcohol there if you want to drink, but you don't have to drink to do it and
right.
have fun. And we all suck, you know. So it's like it's really fun to do. But that's how I met Kreayshawn.
Do you use
And
bumpers?
then one of my best friends, Shane, actually ended up dating her. So Shane and Kreayshawn, her name's Natasha, are like two of my closest friends. Um, and yeah, we just took a trip to Big Bear recently. Um, and that was really fun. But yeah, I consider them family. But that's how I met Kreayshawn. I met her through bowling.
That's amazing. Yeah, anyone who's not familiar with Kreayshawn, how would you describe her? Is she an artist or specifically music artist? She does a lot of stuff, right?
She is a music. She's a lot. She does a lot of things, and but she kind of like rose to fame in the early 2000. I don't even know when 2009, 10.
Okay.
No, that's too. Right. Yeah. Through music. She's a rapper, and now she still raps. She's a DJ. She's a gamer. She streams. She's a mom to a great kid. And yeah, she's a good friend.
Cool. And this question's from Ria Suth. Did you try to get sober multiple times before it stuck? If so, what made it stick? So
yeah, so definitely yes. I think I mentioned I tried like officially 14 times,
right?
Or 13 times, and then one successful time so far. What made it stick was like a willingness to look at myself in a different light, which is like more centered in truth. And I'll say this, like I was not chill, you know. I wasn't cool. I thought very, very highly of myself. Like ego is like a very clear characteristic of someone who's like stuck in addiction. So just being in the environment and having the willingness and desperation to kind of like, you know, examine that ego, and just be like, well, that is false. Like I'm not like a successful designer, industrial designer, artist, you know. I'm like addicted to drugs and I like have nothing, you know. So being able to tell myself that very bluntly, I mean, like, you're not cool, dude, and you're not smart, you're not special, you are literally, you have nothing. Yeah. Like that kind of negative self-talk really helped me, because it was like centered in truth. I think there's like some people who require positive self-talk, but for me, like I needed to be hit with like a little bit of like a kick to the nuts with reality.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear that, because you'd think like you want to talk to yourself positively, but it actually helped you to talk to yourself negatively.
Yeah. I talk to myself positively all the time while I was getting high. I'm like, I'm so good at this. Right. I'm going to be fine. You know, like I'll figure it out. Yeah. You know, like I can do it. You know, I can make it from here to here and I can survive and stuff like that. But I really needed to be told, which was definitely told to me in these exact words, was that I was a pussy ass bitch. Shout out Chris, who I'm going to see for dinner after this.
Nice.
He told me that, and I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, everything you try to do, you like basically give up in like 2 seconds. You sell out on your family, or like the promises you make to your loved ones. You're completely untrustworthy. You're completely unreliable. Right. And you think like you're the shit and you don't have anything. So that was his like kind of rapper for "you're a pussy ass bitch." And I took it and I held it, and I heard it, you know, I really heard it. And, you know, where I netted out with that was like, I didn't want to be a bitch anymore. Yeah. Yeah. But now today it makes sense you explaining that through. And today you talk to yourself positively, I'm assuming. Yeah. I mean, dude, I work really hard at like having minimal things to talk negatively to myself about.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a habit, you know, like I like to check myself. And I like to get checked by other people, just like, you know, am I being an asshole?
I mean, how let me check in on you right now. How are you doing today? How's your like mental health today?
Today I think I'm really good, dude. I got vaccinated. I called my mom. I took some time off work, so I don't actually have to do anything for a really long time after this. I did some creative stuff I'm gonna try and like execute this week just for myself. And what else? Like I got to see my little baby nephew over this weekend, and it was like awesome. And I like taking like slow-mo videos of him.
iPhone.
And I just ordered a new tripod, so I could say like I'm doing pretty good.
Cool. That's awesome to hear. And on to the last question of this interview. We're just flying. This just flew by. We've been talking for like over an hour now.
Yeah, I did fly by.
Last question is coming in from AR. Tompkins. If you could go back,
Okay.
if you know who that is?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry if I do and I don't remember.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. So question from AR Tompkins. If you could go back in time and tell yourself something, what would it be?
I would tell myself, ooh, that's so hard.
Yeah, it's hard to
What would you say? I'm gonna pass this back to you while I formulate my
Okay,
answer.
what would I say to myself?
Yeah.
I mean, first thing that come to mind is spend $500 and buy Bitcoin right when it became a thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
God, you've drank the Kool-Aid. I have to, honestly.
I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, that's surface level. Like, yeah, it'd be cool to make a lot of money. But first thing I would tell myself,
my instinct was preventative. I was like, where have I fucked up so bad that I wish I could like change?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, okay, so the thing that comes to mind for me, what would I tell myself is just don't be a baby. Don't be scared. Like there are so many moments like in beginning of high school or even earlier where I was just like scared to do things because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I deserved certain things. Like, for example, I loved soccer and basketball and other sports, and I would never try out for any of the teams at school because I just thought I wasn't worth it. I was never, not only was I going to make the team, but I was going to get made fun of for even like showing up at tryouts, which looking back is so silly. So it wasn't until junior year when I tried out for the soccer team, which I regret. But activities in general, I didn't know, like today I have so many interests and I want to do so many things. And there's not enough time for any of it. And back at the beginning of high school and even before high school and middle school, you know, like these programs, like I'm sure you're familiar with like Montagossi and Nature Quest and like just extracurricular activities after school, whether it was even chess club or anything like that. I never did any of that stuff because I don't know. There was just like for me, there might've been a stigma to it / I just wanted, I didn't take advantage of any of those things and kind of sad about it. I got really lucky that I found photography really early because besides photography, you know, I didn't have that many interests. I had no idea what I was going to do if it wasn't photography. So,
I mean, you had interests. You had more interest than a lot of people I know. Like, cause I mentor a lot of people, and I will just say like, sometimes the state of the youth is like really, really scary. There's a lot of people who really, really have no interests. Someone recently told me that I like asked them like what their dreams were. And they were like, I really like my job and I really like living in Culver City. And I was like so upset by that. Because it was like really, dude, like you don't want to like cooler job. You don't want to go like study something in Paris. You don't want to like go to like India. You don't want to go like Southeast Asia and like backpack and live in hostels or something like. So I think you had interest, man.
I mean, now I do not as much
feeling of like pressure to the point where you just don't want to participate.
Let me rephrase that. I think I had interests, but I was so scared to pursue any of them. Like I didn't do any of them until I got like pushed. to do it.
Yeah.
Which it was not even a light push. I had to get like really pushed to do it. And that's when So anyway, I just went into my answer.
Sorry, I totally passed the ball so I could think of something.
Yeah. So that's why I was answering it. So
yeah,
bought you some time.
My answer is, as far as like the turbulent areas of my life that caused me much pain, I would not have anything different, because
no regrets.
the reality is, dude, I lived a fucking crazy life. Like, I got stories for days that will blow your mind. Wild shit.
Yeah.
You know, and I love having those. I think it makes me a more well-rounded person with like deep experience into like things that make humans tick, you know, on a primordial level, insecurity, selfishness, and stuff. Like, I've seen it in action where it matters the most, like life and death. And I think that makes me like full, just like having had those experiences. Because, you know, if I didn't, I think it would always be lingering. Like, not to get like kind of graphic, I guess this isn't that graphic, but if I had never done heroin, I would always be like, I wonder what doing heroin's like. Yeah. Now I don't ever have to wonder that. So I won't like say anything like that, but I will say two things. One, on the more lighter note, I would urge myself to spend more time working in 3D modeling. So I know how to 3D model. I do it semi often. But there was a point where really when I went freelance, like my priorities shifted towards like fast tracking myself in a position of like leadership and like being more focused on like creative concept, and like developing the muscles of like the story and narrative of like a campaign or a product story or something like that. And I like lightened up on like the executional 3D stuff. Obviously, like it's made a rise with NFTs now. People who are doing 3D are infinitely positioned to succeed right now. And while I can still do that stuff, I wish I knew 3D like it was like a second language. Now I do know like Photoshop and Illustrator, like even like After Effects to some degree, but not as much, like a second language. But I really wish I like focused and stayed on with 3D. But when I went to college, they taught us like these programs and industrial design. In industrial design, some of the programs like they changed, like the standard in the industry changed. So I was just like, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with all these like changing softwares, you know. Maybe I should just focus on like becoming more like of a director, you know. And I think you should also know that like my brother is a creative director, so like I always looked up to him and kind of wanted to like semi follow in his footsteps.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. And then the second part, if I could, what was the question? It was like, tell myself to do something.
Yeah. I mean, the question was, if you could go back in time and tell yourself something, what would it be?
Oh,
if you could just tell yourself something.
Well, my answer is still the same. I would go back in time and tell myself to spend more time with my father. Because my dad, just so everyone knows, like my dad was really old when he had me. So by the time like I was 10 years old, my father was like pretty much old enough to be my grandfather.
Right.
In fact, like everyone pretty much thought he was my grandfather if you weren't like close to me. So our relationship didn't really level out until like I left home, actually, you know, 18 and stuff. So yeah, if I could tell myself to do anything, I'd be like, probably slap myself and be like, yo, get over it. Like, you only have one dad, and like your dad gave you everything, like not just like things and like helping me go to school, and like he gave me like intrinsic like infrastructure in my brain that like makes me operate the way I do now. And like I would give anything to have like an hour with him to like just tell him I love him and just like hang out with him, but even just like ask him more questions and stuff. So if I could go back and tell myself anything, I would tell myself to spend more time with my dad.
I love that. Damn. Well, dude, Carlos.
Sentiment.
Yeah. Well, Carlos, love you, brother. Thank you so much for hopping on this podcast and being so candid and open and telling your story, and not only sharing it with me, but sharing it with everyone who's listening. I hope people, I like to think people can, some people will be able to get a lot of things out of what you're saying and will be helpful to them and helpful to their friends, etc. And yeah, just really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story.
Yep. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'll look forward to like seeing where you take this whole endeavor with this podcast and seeing you out in LA soon when I try and convince you that warmer is better.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
I'll never convince you because I know you're just stuck to it.
I'm a native East Coaster.
You know what? That's fair. I think you might be right to some degree, but I will also say that there's something to be said for weather. And
hey, I get it. It's better for a lot of people, but I know what's best for me is New York / just on the East Coast. And yeah. So Carlos, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at SLIIZZZ. You can find me on Twitter at Slizzy McGuire with 3 Z's. You can find me on TikTok at Slizzy McGuire with 3 Z's. And I mean, if you really want to find me on LinkedIn, you can. But that's about it. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for tuning in and listening to this episode of the Ask Not Me Anything podcast. Be sure to check out the other episodes if you haven't listened to them yet, and tune in next Wednesday for the next episode. Thanks so much for listening. Peace.